it's such like a easy thing to do. I feel like it's so easy to say something hateful rather than to stand up towards it. And it's so easy to just like fall into it. But at the same time, I'm so angry that like people are like, I just want to be like, don't you see what they're doing?
Yes, it's very frustrating.
But at the same time, I understand that it's like easy to fall into this like, you know, these like hateful rhetorics and to, you know, fall down these rabbit holes. But at the same time, I'm like, why aren't you seeing the things that I'm seeing?
It's
and
illogical.
Almost to the point where I'm like, am I making stuff up?
They said that we'd grow out of it. Well, the joke's on them, that's just our brains. We're eccentric, loud, and stubborn. And most of our clothing is covered in stains. It's not a deficit of attention. There's just too much to think about. So if executive dysfunction becomes a little too much, if you forgot why you came in this room, or you're hypersensitive to touch, then put on your seamless socks and come join our little flock. Bitches stimming together, we're weirds of a feather. Weirds of a feather. Ah! Caw-caw!
Yeah. All right.
Life is good. Things are going well.
Yeah?
Things are just wonderful right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not a worry in sight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
True utopia.
Yeah. It's yep.
But sunshine and blue skies over here.
Rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah. USA! USA! All right, should we get into this bagel night?
Yeah. It's going to be
something.
It's going to be something.
Gonna be something.
We've got things to chat about.
Yeah.
This is our first time recording since the election.
Yep.
And
as you
for
heard,
those
it's going really well.
Of you probably non-Americans who listen, I don't know. We do live in America-centric culture, but I feel like a lot of people know what the results.
They know what's going on.
And yeah, we're gonna talk about it. But first,
yeah, should we do the welcome? The Words of a Feather.
Welcome,
an AuDHD-Adjacent podcast. I'm your host, Grace Bray.
Is that a ghost?
No, it's the vent.
Oh,
okay. Vent ghost. Oh, no, it's just a vent.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna be squeaking and banging, and don't worry about it.
Great. And I'm your host, Kristen Stanhope.
Hey, here we go.
And this is Words of a Feather. And we already said that.
Yep, we said that.
Yeah. Well, before we get into like some serious stuff, should we talk about our little plushes?
I think we should. Let's start with a little win first before we rant and rave.
Yeah.
All right. Do our song?
Yep. Okay, Ghost.
Yeah, stop that. Dude, cut it out.
Not everybody can do a podcast, okay? You're not allowed, Ghost.
Yeah.
Relax.
Jealous much?
Save it for Patreon.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a Ouija board.
Ooh.
Let them participate. Although I'm actually like very scared of the Ouija board.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I think
you got to listen to this podcast.
I think it's legit. Objects. I think it opens you up to, I don't know, potential bad energy. And I just think it's not worth messing with, you know? That and haunted dolls.
Oh, yeah. You know, we got to talk about it later.
Okay.
But,
all right, let's do our song.
Okay.
Little Plushes! Kristen.
Yes.
What did you accomplish?
This weekend, I started a new craft, and I'm really excited.
What are you crafting?
I'm determined to finish it. A wooble, which is like those, and I mean, maybe I'll do a whole hobby collector about it, because we've already covered crochet.
Yes.
But this is, so I had one wooble, but I started it, and then...
It's like the little crocheted animals?
Yeah, they're the amigurumi, but it's a whole kit. So it comes with everything. It comes with the crochet hook. It comes with the yarn that you need. And YouTube videos. You have like a passcode, and then you have like these videos, which kind of make it... There are other kits you can buy that are probably way cheaper, because these things are like $30 a pop, which is crazy.
Jeez.
I know. Yeah. But the YouTube videos really make it. So I've started it. I feel like I've learned a lot. Christopher got me back into it because I did put crochet down a while.
Yeah.
But we've been busy this summer with like gardens and chickens and stuff.
You got summer hobbies.
Yeah. So
this hobby.
This is a winter hobby, and I'm determined to finish this one. So
I believe in you. What is it?
It's a little chicken.
Oh.
A little chick, I guess. So I'm excited. It looks like the easiest one because it's literally like an oval with 2 wings and a beak. And
Is it lots of counting? You're like counting stitches?
Yeah. So one, Christopher got me a counter, which is
helpful.
really helpful. And 2, the tutorial tells you like how to count stitches as well. So I'm trying both, and seeing which one sticks. I like to think that I can count, but turns out I really can't.
If only.
And the thing is like, my short-term memory is just non-existent. So
yes, very, very poor.
I don't know how people can just like sit and like watch TV and do, I guess it has to be the right show, like a mindless show. But like we tried to watch a movie once and I was just like losing count of my stitch.
Well, you are very, what's it called? Monotropic, where you are very focused on one thing. You are very terrible at multitasking. You're not like when your attention is sucked into something.
Yeah.
It's like the rest of the world disappears.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted really, like my attention to be sucked in, but I with like the counting and the learning and the YouTube videos, it's hard to get sucked in, but I think I did eventually get sucked in. So it was nice.
It's nice to lose yourself.
Yeah, I was like really hoping that I would, you know? Sometimes I don't know if you ever get like stressed when you're doing a hobby. You're like, am I going to be sucked in enough?
Yes.
Am I going to like truly enjoy this? And then like, am I going to have enough time? That's the other thing. If I have like a time constraint, I won't enjoy it because I'm worried about the time. I'm like, I can't lose myself because I know I have to like, there's a deadline.
Yep,
you know?
I hate that.
But I'm determined to finish it.
I believe in you.
I'm going to keep working on it.
All right.
And we'll see. And then, and Christopher just finished a Woo Bowl. He did a Yeti.
Nice.
Which we actually bought last winter.
Better late than never.
And then he's working on another one, and now he's like really getting into it. So proud of him. We went to Joann's.
I went to Joann's like every single day last week.
Yeah. It's nice to like pick up craft supplies. And the yarn, it's just like I touch every single yarn that's in there.
That's a nice fabric.
Nice yarn, nice fabrics. The weight, I'm like, this is a good weight. And then this is not a good texture. This is a great texture.
I hope you're using those coupons every time you go to Joann's.
What coupons?
Oh my God, are you serious? That's half the reason to go to Joann's. Download the Joann's app. They have a million coupons on there every single time you go.
Really?
They always have 40% off one regular price item. Sometimes they'll do 20% off your whole order. Sometimes it's $5 off $35. $10 off $50. Like,
what the fuck am I doing?
I don't know.
Paying full price?
You can also, here's a little secret tip for those of you who live near a Joann's. You can use one of the coupons on the app, and then you can go on the Joann's website separately from the app, use that coupon there. So if you have a 40% off one regular price item, use one coupon on the app, then open it on your regular web page on your phone, use that coupon too.
Double coops?
Yep. One of the ladies that works there told me that.
That's
little secret.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I save so much money.
What am I
with
doing?
The what are you doing?
I don't.
Just download the app. There's a coupons button right there. Boom. Now you know. Little tip.
That's a great tip.
Right?
Thank you for that tip.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to be in the crafting world, it's important to know.
I had no idea. I didn't know. I always forget about coupons. Even grocery shopping, I should use coupons more.
I don't think about it with grocery shopping, but when it comes to Joann's, like the coupons are significant. Like 40% off. That's huge. And they have it almost every single time you go.
Michael's right now has all their Halloween stuff 70% off, which is really nice.
So does Joann's. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it's still like, they have skeletons that are like $120
for like
so
$20.
Yeah. 70% off. I mean, they're still kind of expensive.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't want to pay full price for a skeleton. I want that discount skeleton.
Yeah. I love a discount.
Well,
congrats. I'm excited to see what you make. I think crochet is a great hobby in these trying times.
And then you get a little animal out of it. Yeah. And you learn all the stitches. Sorry, not sutures. That's different sewing.
Yes.
And Grace.
Yeah.
What did you push? What's your push?
I randomly organize all of my phone apps.
Whoa.
Which I've been meaning to do for like 5 years. I had so many random apps that I wasn't using anymore that just, I had like, you know, when you scroll like through the pages of your homepage on your phone, I had like 7 or 8 pages. And some of the pages.
How many apps do you have?
I had so many. Some of them just had like a couple apps on one page and then it would be like
That's
nothing
so
else on the
many
page.
Apps.
I know.
What's the appropriate amount of apps?
I don't know. I only have 2 pages worth of apps now and I put them in categories.
Yeah.
I organize all of them, categorize them. So I have like a folder that's for books and I put all my books apps in there. I have one that's like for crafting. I have one that's like bad habits. I got all my social media in there, you know? And I have never really done that before. I've always just like known where my different apps are throughout this like random scattering of them in my phone and just like sifting through all these apps I'm not using. But instead I was like, what if I just deleted all these randomly one night? It just hit me and I just got the drive to do it and I did it. And now it's like so easy to find all my apps. I know.
That's
thank
great.
you. Motivation really hit me. And that's the thing about ADHD, you know, you can't really plan to do things like that.
No.
You just have to be willing when the motivation hits you to say, now's the time, you know?
Yep.
Because part of me was like, well, I didn't really plan to do that right now. But I was like, what are you doing? If you feel like doing it, grab onto that.
You gotta follow that
and
dope.
Ride it. Yeah.
Ride the
and
dope.
I wrote it.
Ride the dopamine.
Yeah. And here we are. And
well,
now,
that's great.
Look at me, Miss Organized.
I know. Organizational queen that you are. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Enough piddle paddle. Let's get into
piddle paddle.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is that?
I don't know, like pish posh. Piddle paddle.
I don't think piddle paddle.
It's a term. Look it up.
It?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I look it up, is it going to be porn?
Just trust me. Don't double check it.
Okay.
It's not porn. It's just probably not anything.
This is probably just not a thing.
Piddle paddle. It's like fiddle faddle. I was like, what's that? Popcorn. Fiddle faddle. Popcorn brand.
Oh.
It's like Cracker Jack. Fiddle faddle. Anyway,
I don't know that either.
What do you know?
Apparently nothing. Especially when it comes to this next topic.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice transition.
Look at that. So, like I said earlier, this is our first time recording since the news.
Yes.
And we have a lot of feelings about it.
Uh-huh.
And
a lot of thoughts. We weren't going to get too far into it this episode.
But we always do, and so here we are.
And we also said, hey, we have this platform where we can share information with people. And so I think we'd be doing everyone a disservice and doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't share our thoughts
and our
on the matter. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should start with feelings. How do you feel about this?
I feel scared. I feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
I feel frustrated. How do you feel?
I think those are all valid feelings, and I agree with every one of them. I feel scared and sad, and I also feel, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I feel like almost like embarrassed thinking that like we were like finally turning this corner almost on, not like turning the corner, but like silly on me to think that America would actually make some like significant progress in the way of like human rights.
Especially if that involves voting for a Black woman.
Right. And then like steering away from like, you know, end stage capitalism. I was like so hopeful that we were moving in a positive direction for once after just like years and years and years of not. And I feel silly for even like having the audacity to get my hopes up, and I feel so like disheartened and just like silly on me. Like I can't believe I even thought that would be like a possibility, you know?
While I understand that feeling, I think it's also important for us to like, you know, having hope is better than not having hope. And if you spent your energy having hope for our country, is that really like a waste of time? Is that something you're ashamed of? You know,
no,
like it's not embarrassing to have hope. It's embarrassing to vote for a fascist. And like hope is the most important thing we can have right now because like same with like climate change and stuff like that. Like if white supremacy and late stage capitalism want us to lose hope because that is how.
And I feel like I'm very close to like
power.
Totally losing hope.
And that's why I thought it was important to do this episode so we can kind of
a lot of people are hopeless right now.
Yes. And I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings. It's not that we're wrong to feel that way, but also feeling hopeless is what fascism wants.
Yeah.
Fascism requires people to feel like they don't have a fighting chance when really like people make up this country. Like we are the vast majority, and keeping us hopeless and separated is like how fascism and late stage capitalism and white supremacy all thrive. And so I think we can feel the sadness and the anger, but also try to find ways to keep that hope alive. Because if we just throw in the towel now and say like, oh, well, we're falling into fascism, it's hopeless.
Mm-hmm. I guess my other thing is, and maybe this is just me being me and not, I'm having a hard time understanding how people can't obviously see like
how they're harming themselves.
Yes. And like obviously like, and all these things of like these tools to like keep communities separated and against each other that are so pro capitalism and pro 1%. Like it's for the 1% that we are angry at each other. That's
yes.
And I'm not saying that this Ghost, would you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to have a moment here. I think what I want to say is racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism are all very real things. And they are also all tools that are used to separate us as a community, as a people, and pit us against each other. And if we're all fighting against each other, then we're not connecting and lifting each other up.
Yep.
And I feel like when you see, certain people saying these like blatantly sexist or homophobic or transphobic or racist things or ableist things and just the hate that's just spewed out from these very public figures, it's like it makes me so frustrated because you're like, this is obviously a tool being used to divide. And like, how are you? I'm getting mad at people for falling for it,
yes,
but at the same,
effective.
It's so effective and it's so easily. It's such like a easy thing to do. I feel like it's so easy to say something hateful rather than to stand up towards it, and it's so easy to just like fall into it. But at the same time, I'm so angry that like people are like, I just want to be like, don't you see what they're doing?
Yes, it's very frustrating.
But at the same time, I understand that it's like easy to fall into this like, these like hateful rhetorics and to, fall down these rabbit holes. But at the same time, I'm like, why aren't you seeing the things that I'm seeing?
And illogical.
Almost to the point where I'm like, am I making stuff up? Like, am I like,
no.
I know, but it's just like, I'm like, how do you not see this? How do you not? That's what I'm angry about. Like,
yep.
How are people like I was talking to someone the other day who says they're a liberal, but they said, I think more people voted with the economy in mind. Because we're kind of talking about like, and I'm just like the economy. I was like, I mean, regardless of the economy, I was like, if you're voting, I think like one side's like the economy, and then you're sacrificing like human rights for like this theoretical economy. I'm like,
that's not even going to improve. Every economist has said
it's not going to improve, and which is like besides the point. But I'm like, it's just kind of like, how do you have morals and say I'm voting for the economy instead of like human rights and like peace?
You care more about your own pocket than you do about the lives of others.
What? And besides the point that it's probably not great for the economy.
But that's the most frustrating part. It's like you're voting for the economy, but it's not even going to improve.
But it's not the economy. It's and so that's like that's the frustrating part. It's like it's like, how can you even think of the economy when like human rights are on the line? And I don't know. I'm just like, I guess I'm kind of like shocked that like, and I don't know. I'm just so disappointed and shocked and weirdly embarrassed that like, maybe I thought we could like do some good.
I think it's important to remember that America was founded on genocide and colonialism and racism and Christianity. This country, like, for those of us who see how good things could be and how what this country is supposed to be and what we've always been told this country represents. It's the land of the free, blah, blah, blah.
The melting pot.
Yeah, I think when we truly look at it and we think about it, like truly our country was founded on genocide. We came here and genocided the Native Americans.
Yes.
So like people say, you can't break the system while operating within the system. Like if this system was created on genocide and white supremacy and colonialism, you're never going to use the master's tools to like dismantle that system.
Mm-hmm.
So we are headed towards fascism regardless of whether Trump is elected or not, because like that's just how our country has always been, but has been going in these last 4 years, especially. A big period of conservatism always follows historically these big pandemics. There's always this big wave of conservatism, which disabled people have been telling us is coming, you know, because it's those disabled people are the most vulnerable populations. And I don't know what I'm trying to say.
It's scary.
Yes, it is scary. But also when you think about it logically, it does make sense for who we are as a country.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean there's no hope for us, but it just means we're not going to elect our way out of this. We're not going to vote our way out of a system. We can't use the system to dismantle the system. Kamala, as great as she would have been compared to Trump, is still operating within this system, you know? So I think individualism is a tool of white supremacy. And the more we can focus on building community and bringing back those communities and not focusing so much on hating each other as individuals, but kind of coming together as community, like that's really the only way to fight against capitalism and white supremacy and colonialism, is like to promote community and get us back to basics, back to like caring for your neighbor and taking care of each other and offering mutual aid. And like, I just think, you know, fear is such a strong emotion and that the Republicans have preyed on it, and it worked, you know, because people are scared of things they don't understand. Like people are voting based on being scared of trans people in bathrooms. It's like, that's not even statistically relevant at all. Cisgender straight white men are the biggest threat to women's safety. So if you say you're voting to protect women and girls, you're not. You're just scared of 1% of the population is trans. So like you're voting based on being scared of 1% of the population.
Yeah,
like
anything,
it's just crazy.
The thing that's killing women the fastest is all these like abortion bans and
men.
The maternal deaths.
Murder is the biggest cause of death for pregnant women. Is partner violence.
Homicide,
which is men.
Which is wild. Yeah, I think I guess I'm just like feel this like sensation of this feeling of just like utter disappointment, because I feel like I had my hopes up so much. Not that I was like, Kamala's gonna save us all. I was just like, at least this is like some good news in a very long series of bad news.
Yes.
But it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. And now it's like, what now? So I'd like to talk about some things that we can do now. But yeah, I think the main thing that's so frustrating is like a lot of Trumpers are like, yeah, we win, suck it, as if it's like the Super Bowl. We weren't fighting against you guys. We were fighting for you guys.
For everyone,
is the thing. We were fighting for everyone's rights. And we're trying to say, we're not upset that our side lost, quote unquote. It's not like we wanted to beat you. We wanted to put someone in office who won't directly harm people, you know, whether it's us, whether it's you, whether it's people we don't know. Like, that's the thing. We were all trying to vote to protect as many people as possible. I don't agree with Trumpers, and I think that either they are hateful people or hatefulness is not a deal breaker for them. I still want them to have human rights. I still want them to have housing. I want them to have food and water. I want them to have healthcare.
And education.
Yes. I want people to have all those things regardless of who you voted for. I may not agree with you as a person and I may not agree with your morals, but I still want you to have access to like all the human rights.
I don't want you to have harm caused to you, you know? And I think that there's...
And that's the difference, you know, is that one side was voting to like cause harm to the other. And so it's not really like, well, there's both sides. Like one side was trying to mitigate the harm for everyone and the other side wasn't. So, you know, I don't think we have many Trump listeners, but I know we have a few. And I just want to really reiterate that we aren't upset because our side lost. Like, this truly is not the Super Bowl. We're upset because of what this means for everyone, of like what's going to come.
For everyone, but especially marginalized groups.
Yes. Yes, of course, there will be communities that will be more affected by this than others. Trans people, Black people,
right. I think
women,
you and I, coming from middle class white families, we're kind of in this like privileged area, but we'll still be affected. But who will be affected first are the people who are the most marginalized.
Yep.
But then it will just go up the line from there.
Yep.
And if you don't think that you're going to be affected, well, I'd love to live in your world.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? And if you are one of the people that's like, well, he's not actually going to do any of the stuff he talked about, why'd you vote for him?
Yeah.
Why would you vote for someone who, if you don't think they'll actually enact the policies they talked about?
Actually do anything.
Yeah. It's like, then what were you voting for? Truly just so your side would like win, quote
just
unquote?
Like for spite? I don't know.
Speaking of how this will harm all of us, I want to just talk about what a tariff is.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't really understand what tariffs are.
I don't really know what it is.
Okay.
But I know he was like, let's just do tariffs instead of taxes.
And somehow people think that that's going to benefit them when it's just going to increase prices for all of us.
Great.
No matter what.
Good.
So I follow this account on TikTok called Alexis and Dean. It's this guy who is an economist, and he does a really great job of breaking down all these terms and
what
kind
a
of
depressing job,
right? He's very good at it, but yeah, that'd be very
you would
frustrating.
have to love your job to be an economist. Like,
Yes.
I just feel like that
I'd be screaming from the rooftops. I'd be
suck
ranting and
my
raving.
soul, because anyway.
I agree, but this guy Dean,
I hope he's okay. I hope he's on like Lexapro or something to get him through. Because man,
yeah,
I hope you're okay, Dean.
Yeah, I hope you're doing okay, Dean.
Yeah.
So go check him out if you want to learn about this stuff, because I've been watching a lot of his videos and he is like a really great educator, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about the economy that I have never really learned before. So go check him out. But essentially, a tariff is, so we export goods and we import goods. Here in America, we import a lot of goods. There's a lot of stuff that we don't make in this country. We have a high cost of living. Land is expensive. We have high taxes. It's not really cost effective to make a lot of products here beyond like, we make like airplanes. We make a lot of, unfortunately, like weaponry.
Weapons.
Yeah.
We're really good at it.
Yes.
If we're number one at something, we're number one at weapons.
Yep. Military, weapons,
and guns.
war. Yep.
And gun-related murders.
Yeah. But we're not really making things here like clothing,
Yeah.
We're not making like cell phones here
No.
because it's just not
So
cost effective
expensive,
for us.
yeah.
We don't have tons of huge cotton fields like we used to. And so we're just, it's not.
And all the lithium mines are in
Congo
Africa.
and
Yeah.
all those other countries where
That's another
people are also being genocided.
Also dying. Yeah, that's another story for another day.
Yeah. But so essentially, we have to import a lot of goods here, and a tariff would put a tax essentially on goods that we are importing. So if we put a tariff on goods we're getting from China, China isn't paying those tariffs. We pay that.
It's the importing company, is my understanding.
Yes.
So if I have a company that like imports T-shirts that are made in China, my company would have to pay that tariff.
Yes.
And how do I get, I guess my understanding is, how do I make up for that cost? Well, it's not,
yeah, you're not going to swallow the cost.
No, I'm going to just make my prices in America higher.
Yep.
So that all of the cost goes to the consumer.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
So it's not China who's paying the tariff, and it's not the importing company will originally pay the money, but then they'll make up for it by increasing the price.
Yeah. So that cost is just going to be directly passed on to us. There's really no way that it will benefit us. And even if China was paying the tariffs, which they are not, but even if they were, okay, now they're going to increase the prices because they have to pay the tariffs. So like either way, the price would get more expensive, and that cost is always passed on to the consumer. Some people think that tariffs can bring jobs and manufacturing back to America, but like we already talked about, it's not cost effective. The cost of living is much higher. You have to pay employees more. You can't really take advantage of slave labor like you can in other countries.
Dang it.
Yeah, bummer.
I think the thought for the thought process is like, maybe these tariffs will be too high for these companies to pay, so they'll decide to move all of their manufacturing to America. But they won't. They'll just increase their prices.
And that would, once again, just make goods more expensive. Whatever you're paying for a good from China, imagine making it in America where the minimum wage is whatever, where, land costs more. You have to pay people. And also, okay, so you decide you're going to make t-shirts here. Where are we getting the cotton? You still have to import those materials from other countries. So you're still paying a tariff, even if we're manufacturing things here. You're still paying a tariff on those materials because we can't just make everything here in America. So it's kind of like a delusional thought about what tariffs mean. Like tariffs essentially are just bad news. It sounds
like a plan about that someone made up who knows nothing about economics.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I know anything about economics, but after doing like a basic research on Google, I think any person, regardless of education level, can say, maybe not a great idea.
Yeah, maybe more expensive is bad.
Maybe just tax the rich.
Yeah, tax corporations.
Yeah.
Dean says that really free trade is the ideal way of trading because all countries have different things that they are best at. And so having free trade where no one is paying tariffs is ideal. But he says that realistically, fair trade is what often happens, where one country says, well, we have this stuff. The other country says, we have this stuff. Trade, no tariffs. Then you're getting at least a fair trade. Free trade is ideal. Fair trade is the next best thing. Tariffs are not free trade or fair trade. And we will pay the prices of that.
Great.
So there's that. There's what tariffs are.
Okay.
Tax cuts. If you think Trump is going to magically lower your taxes and lower prices on products, if you make less than $400,000 a year, those tax cuts do not apply to you. They only apply to the wealthy. So,
and that's
as far as voting for tax cuts, if you make under $400,000, which I'm guessing you do, those won't apply to you. So there's that.
Most of Americans,
Yeah. So you're not going to save money there. What else do we want to talk about?
Can we talk about the blue bracelets?
Please. I was just about to bring that up.
So
liberal white women, listen up.
Well, so for background, there was a TikTok that went around about, and it was a liberal white woman who was like, how do we convey to minority groups that we are a safe person? And someone was like, let's make these like blue beaded bracelets and we'll all wear these bracelets. And now people are selling bracelets and it's a solidarity. And I think there's a lot of conversation about these fucking blue bracelets. One, I think my biggest issue with it is I don't think you get to tell yourself you're a safe person. I think other people get to decide that for themselves.
Yep. We don't really get to label ourselves as safe.
I think
as white people.
Yeah, as white women, because I think there's like a notorious thing of I think we kind of walk the line of like we're kind of in a minority group because we're women, but we're often like just as racist and
we're white over anything.
Yeah, we're white over anything, and we're problematic.
Yes, it's like the same with gay men, where you're marginalized in one way, so you have this like marginalized identity without recognizing the privilege that you still have. Like, yes, you're gay, but you're also a man. Yes, you're a woman, but you're also white.
Right. So I don't think you get to decide whether or not you're a safe person.
Like, imagine if men were like, we're going to wear bracelets that let women know that we're safe for them. I'd be like, I'm not going to fucking trust you.
I'm going to walk away from you.
If anything, it feels like insidious almost because it can be like wolf in sheep's clothing, which many white women are, where black women have been taught that we're not safe. We're not trustworthy. They think
because
that they're safe with us.
Because we've proven it time and time again. It's not that...
Yes.
They've been taught, they've been shown.
Yes. By us and by our actions.
Yes,
White women were so involved, back when we had enslaved people. White women were huge perpetrators of violence. And how white women often do that is they utilize white men as a tool of their violence. Where white women tears. Oh, look at Emmett Till, this fucking child that was murdered because a white woman said he whistled at her, which she came out later and said that was a lie. But look how easily she could use the violence of the patriarchy against black women, like as a weapon, or black boys.
So that's one reason why it's really problematic.
Yeah.
The other one is it seems very performative. Like
it doesn't cost you anything to wear and you don't have to do any sacrifice, and therefore it's performative,
Yeah.
Like Whereas lots of people are saying, why don't you just wear a mask to show your solidarity? Because then, okay, you're making the small sacrifice of comfort, but then you're also showing solidarity with truly the most marginalized among us, which is disabled people. So if you really want to show that you're a safe person, please wear a fucking mask. Like, honestly, I've been masking in all the stores I go to. I highly recommend everyone else does, not just to show your solidarity. It's also, and that's the thing about performative action, it's not just to show I'm a safe person and you want like this label of, ooh, I'm a good one. I'm not one of those whites. I'm a good one. It's the intention behind it should be to help the most marginalized communities among us. And that is truly disabled people, Black people, queer people. And so if you really do want to show that you're a safe person, do something that requires like even the tiniest bit of sacrifice from you, like comfort. Whereas wearing a bracelet requires literally nothing of you.
Nothing. And it just stems into capitalism because now everybody's selling these bracelets and now there's Etsy shops with blue bracelets and you're like, ah!
Now the focus is on like selling these fucking bracelets
and everybody has to get one because all my friends have one. Yeah. And you're just like, this is not helping.
Yes.
This is not helping.
Yep.
So I think, the bracelets like sent me over the edge the other day when I found out. I was like, that's not a thing.
Like, what are we doing? And another thing is like, okay, do Black people get to wear bracelets that show that they're safe to white people?
Yeah.
Or do they not get the opportunity to say, hey, I'm one of the good ones, quote unquote? Because no, racism is racism and they will be labeled as dangerous and violent and whatever purely based on their skin color. And there's no special bracelet they can wear that shows like, I'm one of the good ones. Like it's a privilege to even pretend that you could have this symbol of safety for these marginalized communities.
Right. That you put on yourself. You think it's just
it's self-labeling.
You know, the audacity that people have to be like, I'm one of the good ones. I'm a safe person. You can trust me.
Yes. It's centering yourself also. It's like you care more about how you are portrayed and how you are being seen than you care about actually being a safe person. Like the best way to be seen as a safe person is like to be a safe person.
Be a safe person.
You know?
You don't need to like for those marginalized groups and be like a nice person. And
you don't need a symbol to show that beyond, a mask always helps, but also just work on having your character shine through. Let people get to know your character. If you are a safe person to Black people will start to feel safe around you. Yeah. But you don't get to determine your safety level. We all have racism within us because we're a white supremacist country and there's so many biases.
Founded on white supremacy.
Yes. There's so many biases and like problematic viewpoints that we don't realize. Like you need to be doing the anti-racism work of like dismantling these biases that you don't even realize you have. But we all have them and we can't really say, well, I'm not a threat to marginalized people because like you don't know. You can't see your own privilege.
Right. Okay. Big deep breath.
Big deep breath.
Can we talk about white women more?
Please. White women. God.
Ladies. As a white woman.
Yes.
You are also white.
I am.
We are a big part of the problem.
Yes. And
many white women voted for Trump and it was like shocking. That was one of the things that when I was like so disappointed, that was like one of the big things. I was like, girl.
I know.
I thought we were past this. I thought we all knew that like not a safe guy, like
rapist.
Yeah. Doesn't deserve a blue bracelet if that was ever a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but apparently no.
And I think we're seeing a lot of like anger directed at men, which I fully understand, and they do deserve it. And men by far were the biggest demographics who voted for Trump.
Yes.
So I'm not saying men aren't the problem, but I think as women, we want to turn around and point at the men and say, we're going to do the 4B movement and we're going to, we're going to
punish you.
All men, punish men. They're the bad ones.
They're
Half
the baddies.
Of white women voted for Trump. So like, who are we to separate ourselves from that problem?
An astounding amount.
Yes. A disgusting number.
Disgusting amount.
Of voting against their own bodily autonomy.
Exactly. And it's like all this data is now coming out about like the mortality statistics in Texas where they have very strict abortion bans and women are having to become like septic and like almost at death's door in order to get proper care. It's like unreal. It's like absolutely heartbreaking. And I just, girls.
Yes.
What are we doing?
I know, honestly, like voting against our own reproductive rights. And like, yes, Trump doesn't directly make laws, but like
no, but it's what he incites, I think. He incites violence. He did on January 6th.
Yep, absolutely.
And he'll do it again.
Yep.
And I think once again, I thought we were not past this, but so like, I felt so like naive to think that like we're in the process of overcoming. And what I learned is that we most certainly are not.
Oh my God. White women love our gilded cages. We just vote for our own oppression, don't we? We just fucking love to be oppressed. It's because women have been taught to care about men more than women, even themselves. So all those women care about is men, is their husbands, is the men in charge. And it's just like this extreme internalized misogyny of like, not thinking it'll happen to you, not caring about stuff unless it happens to you, and also not really having love for themselves, not caring about themselves, being so willing to sacrifice themselves, like the ultimate pick-me's. You're so willing to sacrifice your own well-being for men, You're just like a tool of patriarchy. So while I do agree that obviously the patriarchy and white supremacy are the primary causes of this and the primary reason, I don't think as white women we can just turn around and say, yeah, men are the problem.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Because we are also the problem.
We are also the problem.
Yes. And it's not up to us to like separate ourselves from that problem. Like, okay, yeah, we didn't vote for Trump, but we know white people who did vote for Trump.
Right.
And if we go around just cutting everyone off and saying, well, like, that wasn't me, so I don't have to deal with it. Who is going to do the work? Like, are you expecting black women to convince these white people to stop being white supremacists? No. So, like, that's the other thing. White people are, like, now cutting everyone off. And while I understand cutting off people who are going to, like, cause you direct harm, we also, I think, have a responsibility to talk to the white people in our lives and talk to them about these issues. And, I don't know, just give it a fighting chance, because if we give up on everyone and say, oh, well, they're racist, they're fascist, they're Trump supporters, I'm done with them, protecting myself, those people will go on to continue to cause harm to the most marginalized among us.
Yeah.
So I think it's our duty to fight with our uncles at Thanksgiving.
I know. That's the thing, is like all the holidays are coming up and
you also don't have to spend time on holidays with people who are, violent white supremacists.
Well, the thing is because I have one of those uncles who's like, not my president, one of those. And the thing is like, my mom, every year she begs me, I just want to have a nice Thanksgiving. Don't bring anything up.
And tell him not to come.
I go, I'm not bringing it up. I was like, he invites himself to the party and doesn't know the guest list, right? So he doesn't know what he's getting into. So he's going to say something stupid and racist. And guess what? I'm not going to just sit here and allow it to happen. I was like, Mom, I can't help that. I was like, that's not appropriate. Can't just say stupid shit like that without having consequence. My dad, same thing. Love Marty, but once again, this is why we're not allowed at a restaurant in Lisbon, is because last time we went, we argued.
Yep.
And guess what? I was right.
Yep.
And the argument was about, I know this is getting off topic, but I just want to say, because I was so fucking right, was about immigrants, specifically undocumented. And I said that they were a vital part of the economy, which they are.
Yes.
And I was like, who's going to do the jobs that no one wants to do? And he's like, that's not true. They're leeching off the system. And I was like, ooh. And I just like laid into him. And I did yell. And the waitress did ask me to lower my voice. And I did a lot of pointing, like, you don't even know. 3 months later, what does Ron DeSantis do? Makes whatever ruling so all of the undocumented people like flee Florida and the orange fields and the asparagus fields and all of the constructions just come to like a blinding halt. And I just like, for the sake of my mother, I did not call and say, hey, did you see? Did you see? But I did talk to Christopher about it, who made me feel better. said you were right.
You were right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are really uncomfortable conversations. And the last couple of Thanksgivings, we've been civil.
Mm-hmm.
I think my plan is I won't start anything, but I'll finish it.
Yeah, as you should.
Because I can and I will.
Yeah, and I think that's our duty as outspoken white women, is like, it is our duty to have those conversations, because otherwise they either aren't had, or we're expecting people who are in even more harm to have those conversations. Like,
yeah, and I just, it's going to be uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah. Well, that also brings up the point of the right to comfort, which is one of the tenets of white supremacy. We are so used to, as white people, expecting comfort, and people who ruin that comfort, we see them as the real problem. Like, you fighting back at Thanksgiving, your mom isn't upset about your uncle bringing up this hateful rhetoric. She's upset at you for continuing it, and now it's uncomfortable.
Right. And that's the thing, is he'll kind of like mumble it off this aside, and we're like, and I'm like, I'm the only person there who's like, excuse me?
Say it with your fucking
what
chest,
did you say?
dude.
Yeah, excuse me? That's like super uncalled for.
Yeah. And that right to comfort leads us to ignoring problems, because we feel like we have this entitlement to comfort at all times, that we should be, and we see it with the blue bracelets thing and white women centering themselves. I've seen so many Black TikTok creators saying they got messages the day after the election from white people asking for them to make them feel better. Give me your words of wisdom. Like, asking for this emotional labor from Black people.
Yeah.
Who are
Don't
going
put
to
it on
be
Black. They've
much
got enough
more
to deal
harmed.
with. Yeah.
Yes. So it's this.
Do it yourself.
It's this inherent right to comfort that white people feel, where if we're uncomfortable, that's the real problem. Someone making me uncomfortable is the real villain, not me spreading hateful rhetoric. It's, how dare you make me uncomfortable? And that's the problem. So like, it is uncomfortable to have those conversations with people. It is uncomfortable to wear a mask, or it is uncomfortable to like not be automatically seen as like a good white person. And, you know, people have these different judgments about us, and oh no, okay, that is not the same as actual harm being done to people. And I think that is the difference. We as white people have been just so ingrained with this idea that our discomfort is the most important thing, when it's not. And I think we need to build up our tolerance to discomfort. It is uncomfortable to have people be upset with you. It is uncomfortable to like not be people pleasing and not like mitigate these situations. And okay, your uncle's mad. Okay, let him stew in the consequences of his actions. And I think we're seeing that a lot with Trump supporters, who are now upset that they're being pushed out of communities, that they're being, you know, cut off from family members or friends, and they're like so upset about it. You don't get to be hateful and also not have consequences to those actions. Like, you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can be hateful. You can be racist. You can be sexist. You can vote for a rapist. Okay, that's your choice. But we don't have to be in community with you, or we don't have to like engage with you. Those are the consequences of your actions. And if you don't want those consequences, don't have those actions. You know, you're not going to get to be hateful and vote for someone who's going to cause a lot of violence and harm, and then continue to just have people act like you haven't done anything wrong. Like, I don't stand by your hate. If you want to be hateful, be hateful. People are going to react to that.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah, say it with your chest.
Yeah.
If you want to be transphobic, be transphobic. But don't expect...
Like that guy who just got doxxed.
Yeah,
Oh, the guy who's like...
consequences, you know?
Yeah,
those are consequences.
Fuck around and find out stage of hatred.
You don't get it both ways.
Yeah.
And also, as a Trump supporter, if someone says, I hope you get everything you vote for, if that hurts your feelings, maybe reevaluate what you voted for.
If you're upset. Yeah, I know. That's so crazy. Though, isn't it crazy?
They're so offended.
I just feel like, you know, it reminds me of like when I grew up in the Catholic Church, how I felt like about how we all, like, my understanding as a child in the Catholic Church is like we all were pretending, and like we all knew this was fake.
Autism.
Right? Right? So that was like my understanding. And this is how I feel now with this election. We all know it's a bad idea, but for some reason we're like going along with it.
Yes.
For some reason, like it's like unreal to me that I don't know. Is there someone who truly thinks this is a good idea who isn't a millionaire?
I know, that's the thing.
That's what who can truly and honest to goodness, without getting like super angry, violent, or hateful. Can you just explain to me your reasoning for voting for this man?
Yes, things that are in benefit to you
like
and not punishment to others. Like I think a lot of Trumpers are truly like, I will benefit because there will be fewer trans people. There will be fewer gay people. Right, there will be fewer immigrants. Like those are what they see as wins.
Like if you can explain to me, in like a kind and like and logical way of why
real policies
that
will benefit you.
I would love to listen to that. But I just feel like, and maybe this is because I am a very like left-leaning person. I just feel like all I've heard is a lot of like hateful things. I'm voting for Trump because he's going to ban abortion, and I hate women, and I hate Roe v. Wade. But if you can just logically explain, and maybe just stick to one, like maybe just like economy wise, just do that. Let's take like the transphobia and the women's rights out of it, and if you can just explain economy wise, like A, B, and C, this is why I would love to know.
Yeah, I would too.
I just haven't found one fucking reason why I should support this terribly spray tanned man.
Yeah, I mean, because there's not one, because he just is playing on emotions and gender politics and identity politics. Yeah, and like to go back to the white women thing, I'm not saying that your feelings about this whole thing aren't valid. Like obviously as women, even though we are white, we are still women. And
even as a man, you can still grieve.
But there's a big threat to like our bodily autonomy, and that is valid. But the real problem comes when we are centering ourselves in these conversations where we're like doing cosplay with Handmaid's Tale, and we're like acting like we're going to be Katniss Everdeen, and we're really centering ourselves in an issue where we are not the biggest target, and we are not going to be the number one most marginalized
I've never seen Handmaid's Tale, and I just can't now because it's cosplayed so many times, and I'm like, this isn't really helpful.
Tale is based on actual historical things that have happened to Black women, Indigenous women, women of color. Like Margaret Atwood has taken these historical events that have actually genuinely happened to Black women. She's turned it into this fictional story where white women are the main victims and the main protagonists. And instead of like cosplaying this white fictional tale, what if we just learned about real atrocities that have happened to actual marginalized groups, you know?
Then it's not as fun, Grace.
I agree.
But yeah, the cosplay, white women.
Yeah.
We got to stop the blue bracelets.
Oh my God.
All right?
Stop
it. We got to stop cosplaying.
Yes.
Handmaid's Tale. It's overdone.
Yes.
And it's not effective.
Yes.
All right?
And it's centering ourselves.
It's true. That's probably the most important part. Yes. But like also like just cut it out.
Yeah.
It's done.
Just cut it out.
We're done.
Alternative reading that I have in place of Handmaid's Tale and Hunger Games, Octavia E. Butler.
Yes.
Read Parable of the Sower.
Yes.
And Parable of the Talents. Those are great alternatives.
Have you read those?
I just started Parable of the Sower.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm still reading Face Smut, so it's about all I can do right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, take your time.
You know, one day I'll read something that's
well, let's start with you reading first. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry, kids who are listening. This episode isn't for the kids.
No, this one is definitely not for the kids.
We should probably have a disclaimer in the beginning.
Yeah. But also, this is the country they live in, you know, so it's important to learn.
Yeah, if people are allowed to like wear Go Brandon, Fuck Biden shirts, then I think we can talk about this.
Yeah. The 4B movement, we quickly referenced it. Yeah. I don't want to go super into it now. I do think that a movement to separate heteronormativity from our culture and like not having babies with these men and not marrying these men who are our oppressors, I think is a good idea. I'm not saying all men, but like as a whole, men are our oppressors. If they want to, they can enact great harm and violence, and especially with where things are headed, where Project 2025 is coming down the pipeline, I think it's really important to really, really be 1,000% sure that the men you are engaging with are safe men. And that doesn't mean they're just saying that they're safe and you're not really paying attention to like how they treat marginalized groups. Like you need to actually like make sure that they're safe. And especially with potentially no fault divorce being taken off the table, if you got an abusive husband, divorce him. Get out of there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all said and good, but I think getting rid of an abuser and kind of distancing yourself is incredibly complicated and difficult.
Yeah,
and I think, maybe there are kids involved, maybe there's like a financial element involved, maybe you don't have a good support system outside of your abuser. Yeah, I would love to say to everybody who's being like abused or in a bad relationship to just like leave, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But there are lots of resources. I hope if you're in a situation, I'm sorry, but I hope you get the help that you need, because this is probably only going to get worse.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. But I'm not even just talking about abusive relationships. I'm talking about relationships where your husband voted for Trump and you didn't, and you're canceling out his vote. Like, you're giving your body and your time and your heart to someone who fundamentally does not care about your human rights and your freedoms. And like, that is scary. And if they take no fault divorce off the table and you're with a man who sees you as property.
I have a question.
Okay. Yeah.
As an unmarried woman.
Yes.
It's a no fault.
No fault divorce.
This is like one of those things we just talked about where like I'm too embarrassed.
There's nothing embarrassing. You should ask, because otherwise you
I've
just
never
don't know.
been married, so divorce hasn't really been on the table. So
True.
I feel like you have to do one before the other.
Yeah. First,
so
you gotta
really
get married.
Looked into no fault divorce, but it seems like it's important.
Yes. So no fault divorce means that you won't be able to get divorced if there isn't like a provable reason why, which is what it used to be, which is why a lot more men died mysteriously because their wives couldn't leave them because they were seen as property. So like, if your husband cheats on you, but you don't have a way to prove it, like, you can't just leave someone for the sake of leaving. You have to like have this proof, which, who are the people in charge of determining whether your proof is valid or not?
Right.
Men. So it's a really easy way to trap women in marriages, because unless you can say, like, look at this,
do we know
cut
the
off my
reason
hand,
why they're taking it off the table?
to keep women trapped in marriages.
But what's, I guess, okay, so I'll rephrase.
That's the reason why.
What's the fake reason that they're saying?
Because women can just leave men over anything, and all these women are divorcing men for no reason.
What's the legalese version? Like,
I don't know.
There's got to be like some sort of like legalese bullshit euphemism version that
it's
they're
literally
saying.
just that, just in fancier language of just trying to act like this is
the sanctity of marriage garbage.
A valid reason. So I would say, if you're not married yet and you're not 1,000% sure your partner is a safe person, maybe just hold off on like getting married to begin with. Like, I don't know, it's just a piece of paper.
It's a tax credit, right?
It is a tax credit.
Yeah,
but
bummer.
like, if you're stuck with a person and then you're not able to leave them, is that worth the tax credit? Yeah. And not to, I'm not trying to be like alarmist right now. I'm not saying this will happen.
This is an
January
alarmist
21st.
episode.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But
we're
like,
alarmed.
It's just good to think about, if they did take that off the table, even if you're not with a man who's straight up like super abusive, but he doesn't want you to leave him, and then they take off no fault divorce, now you can't get divorced unless he says so. So it's just a potential danger of Project 2025 that I think is good to think about. But the 4B movement, all I will say is, like, I am in favor of us distancing ourselves from men and kind of becoming more aware of misogyny and how the patriarchy hurts everyone, but especially women. I think that's really important. And I do think we should work on decentering men, because our whole lives we've just been taught to like put men at the center of everything. Romantic love, people in charge. Like, we've just always been taught to center men and their feelings. But I think working on recognizing those systems that are in place to keep us kind of like supporting men being in power, I think that is important. And we all have work to do with decentering men. At the same time, I am concerned about the 4B movement, because it is taken from Korea. First of all, it's like a Korean movement. The 4Bs are 4 Korean words that all start with B, that it's all about like essentially not having sex with men, not having their children, not marrying them, and not having any romantic love with them. Obviously, the alliteration doesn't translate into English, but also I've seen a couple creators talk about how it could potentially lead into like transphobia, because if we're just saying like no men, what about trans men? So
what
I just
if you're already in like a committed relationship with a man, as someone who's already like, I'm not gonna like stop that.
No, but I think
especially because Christopher's a safe guy.
And I think that's like, really what it comes down to, is evaluating.
He's like safer than I am, to be honest.
Well, he's still a man.
He's still a man.
But I think evaluating, the safety of the men in our lives and just being really cautious and just making sure we're vetting those people and that we're not endangering other women in our lives. There have been so many women and girls who have dated these abusive men who put their friends in harm's way because they're like exposing them to this abusive man. So I think like evaluating that within our culture is really important.
It's a really good thought that I didn't have.
Right? I just think when it comes to specifically the 4B movement, which is taken from a Korean culture, which is very different from our culture, it's just important to keep in mind that it's a very turfy culture, which is trans exclusionary radical feminism. And so I think it's just important to keep an eye out for that becoming turfy and transphobic, because obviously trans men are an extremely marginalized group.
Yeah.
And we don't want to say boo all men, because once again, it kind of is like pointing the finger at someone else when white women are also the problem. But also, we don't want to exclude these people who are more marginalized than we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like the literal B's are hard to translate over to English, I think the culture of the 4B movement will be hard to translate over. But I think the overall arching like lesson of it, we can apply here, but probably just differently.
Decentering men, is really what it is.
Yeah, and women uplifting women. What did I just say? Women?
Yeah, women.
It's been a long episode. Anyway,
women uplifting women, building community with women and femme people, and and
it doesn't have
people.
to be just community and supporting each other and just like be nice to each other.
Yeah,
and I think as like kind of like dumb and simple as that sounds, I think the past 4 to 8 years have been incredibly hateful, and we've kind of been like spiraling down this kind of very like hateful path, and we don't have to.
Nope.
We
could just not.
We could just not.
Yeah.
You could. It's way easier to be nice than to be hateful. I think it takes so much energy to be hateful and to like keep up that hate. Where you could just be nice to someone. It doesn't take any effort at all.
Yeah. And like when we talk about building community, I think another problem is that we have kind of come to think of it as like building community with people who are like us, with people we agree with. True, genuine building of community involves everyone. It involves like the town weirdo who lives on the outskirts. It involves, people that you don't necessarily agree with, people that are like annoying, or people that are cranky, or people like. True building of community involves everyone that lives within your area, whether they align perfectly to who you are as a person or
and they
not.
Don't have to like live in your area, but like you can even have like an online community. You can have, just getting together with other people to uplift one another.
Yes, and doing things for the sake of others and not to like get some pat on the back, To wind this down, I just have a few other things that we can do to prepare before Trump takes office. And then I have like some great book recommendations.
Yeah.
To get your learning started or keep your learning going, or whatever. Stock up on Plan B.
Yeah.
You can order the generic brand. It's like $8 or $9.
Yeah, you can order it online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And have it right to your house.
It lasts about 4 years as long as it's stored in a cool, dry place.
Nice.
Stock up on Plan B, even if not for yourself, maybe for others. It'd be nice to have on hand.
Get a niece.
Yeah.
Never makes know. Questionable decisions.
Well, it's not just for people who make questionable decisions. A pregnancy can happen regardless of how safe you are, Kristen. So there's no shame in taking Plan B, and everyone should have it if they need it because it is birth control.
Yep.
Make sure that you have a reliable form of birth control for the next 4 years, like an IUD.
We could do this as a Patreon episode. We can go over all the different types of birth control.
We could. That'd
I used to be a hyper focus in PA school. I gave a little talk to like the four boys in our class who like didn't understand. Trying to explain to a man how an IUD goes in is hilarious. They like didn't get it. Yeah. They're like, this is unfair. You have like a home field advantage. I'm like, yo, I think it makes up for it.
Yeah, I think it evens
but yeah,
out.
if you guys would want to, if you guys would be interested in all sorts of forms of birth control, including some people don't respond well to medications, and IUDs it's a tough procedure to go through, and the Nexplanon, everything is problematic. So we can even talk about like dental dams and condoms and I would love to do that. If you guys are interested, let me know.
And I do want to say, even if your partner has a vasectomy, you can still have an ectopic pregnancy. So it's not enough to just get your tubes tied. You need to get your tubes removed if that's your form of birth control. Yeah. Because what's happening is when people talk about abortion, they only see it as like, oh, you got pregnant and you don't want to be. And so that's an abortion. But medically, abortion is also the language used for miscarriages. If you need to like have the fetus removed from your body.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if they have a vasectomy.
Yeah.
That means they don't have any sperm.
It's not like 100%
well,
sure.
You've got to. So part of the vasectomy is the follow-up appointment.
Yes.
And as knowing someone who used to work in urology, Christopher, what a lot of men do is they go through the procedure, but then they never go back
to the follow-up
appointment where you have to do a sperm count and they have to look at your semen and make sure there's no swimmers in there, because you will still make semen. I know this is weird, but you will still make semen. Semen is a combination between like fluids and sperm. Sperm are made in a different part of the body as the rest of the semen. The sperm are made in the epididymis, and then they travel through the vas deferens, and then they go to the seminal vesicles, and that's where your semen is made. Not my semen. Yeah.
Not my semen.
And that's where semen is made. And what they do during a vasectomy is they snip, clip, cauterize, however you want to do it, those vas deferens tubes. So the highway that takes the semen, that takes the sperm from the epididymis in your balls up to basically right around the prostate, which is where the seminal vesicles are. So then they can go out of your urethra and you can splooge.
Come on. Is that the medical term?
Yeah, it is. No. So that is cut off. So you'll still make sperm, but they have nowhere to go. So they'll just die and reabsorb into your body.
Where they belong.
Yeah. But you'll still make semen. One of the reasons why vasectomies aren't always a clear shot is because you have to go back and you have to make sure that it was done.
Yeah. Okay. So what I meant to say was vasectomies aren't always 100%.
Sure.
Especially if you don't go get the follow-up.
Yes.
And then outside of that, even if you get your tubes tied, you can still get pregnant, not from the vasectomy penis, unless you haven't done the checkup. But like, if your husband doesn't get a vasectomy, you just get your tubes tied, you can still get pregnant with an ectopic pregnancy, which is outside of the tubes.
Surgical emergency.
Yes, which would be considered
never viable.
Yes, but that would still be considered, I think, a medical abortion, right?
Yes, because I think that's a big issue, and we can spend a whole nother episode on it.
And let's do it.
But basically, an ectopic pregnancy is a pregnancy outside of the uterus where the little collection of cells that will eventually become a fetus lodge outside of the uterus. Because your tubes are kind of like open to air, basically. There's this gap between your ovary and where the eggs kind of just like float on over to the tube. But sometimes, and that's just kind of like open to your abdominal cavity, which is like super concerning.
Yeah. Kind
of a flaw in our design. But so the sperm can come and attach and bind to the egg. And then that, blastocyst can, instead of going down to the uterus, if your fallopian tubes are tied, it can kind of just like bloop, fall off and like attach in somewhere into your abdominal cavity.
God.
And that's basically, and then there's no way for that to get out of the body.
Yeah.
And that is never a viable pregnancy. However, this has been highly debated and will probably be the reason why many women die.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the medical process for that, like I was saying, is considered an abortion.
Yes.
There are lots of medical procedures that aren't just someone straight up saying, I'm pregnant, I don't want to be. There are lots of medical procedures for people who want to have this baby, but can't for whatever reason, that are considered abortion. So when you take abortion off the table, people think of it as like, well, I don't want women using abortion as birth control. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
And there are lots and lots of medical reasons for an abortion.
Most people who are getting, this is going to upset me, most people who are getting some sort of abortion are people who are already moms, people who are trying for a pregnancy, people who want kids, who for some reason the fetus isn't viable, either it's ectopic or it's already died in utero, and now you're forced to carry a dead thing.
Horrifying.
And what's happening in Texas is you have to be sorry, it just upsets me to talk about this.
I know. We don't have to go into this because we can do a full episode on it, and I think we should do a Patreon. But yeah, I think, and also there's like, you shouldn't have to have a moral reason to get an abortion if it's a medical decision between you and your doctor, and people should have the right to make medical decisions about their own bodies for any reason, even if it is someone who was irresponsible and got pregnant, but then they didn't want to be. Okay, would you rather have that person who doesn't want a baby be forced to have a baby as punishment? Like, are babies punishments, or are they gifts from God? Which is it? And if you think that loose women should be forced to have babies because that's their punishment for having unprotected sex, then you see babies as a punishment. And I don't think
you don't really care about babies.
Yeah, you just care about punishing women for having sex.
It's just, it's so frustrating.
And that's the thing. It's not, it's, if you really cared about lives, you'd care about the living, breathing people who are pregnant over a clump of cells. But anyways, we could go down that road forever, but we shouldn't, because
maybe another day.
Yes, we'll do another episode for sure. But I just think it's important to put that out there, that like, learn all the different procedures that are considered a medical abortion, because it's not just the one simple one you think it is. You can start buying supplies slowly. Like we talked about, those tariffs are coming, and they're going to be on a lot of products and goods. There's going to be a lot of things that we can't get as cheaply, or maybe can't get at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's good to start stocking up on staples. Every time you go to the store, buy an extra bag of rice, buy an extra can of beans.
If you're able to.
Yes, yes. And you can do it slowly. That's the thing, you don't, it's not like go out and spend $500 on these like end of the world supplies. But yeah, try to just buy a couple extra things whenever you can, and just like slowly build up your arsenal.
I think the supplies, is a great idea. There's a lot of great TikTokers out there that will teach you how to stretch $1, especially if you have families. Like I saw this one mom who was mixing soaked lentils into ground beef to make the beef go, because beef is, meat is expensive, to make the meat go longer. I thought that was a great idea.
Nice.
And there's plenty of things. Apparently, we should all be using coupons.
Yep. Yeah, get those coupons going.
Get your coups.
Yep. Save money wherever you can.
And yeah, because things are going to get expensive, and yeah.
And instead of like getting overwhelmed by like how many things there are to do, I think just picking a small area, like some people are picking to learn more about like herbs and potential like medicinal herbs and plants, and like they're focusing on learning how to grow those, and those can be great supports for communities. Again, like trying to think of little things that you could do personally, whether it's like growing something or learning about something, or
gardening's fucking
learning a new skill.
As someone who gardened, maybe there's a cheap way to do it. I'm not doing it right if that's it.
Yeah.
We spent like a bunch of money.
Build up your medical kit, if you have some like EMT basic training type skills, like just kind of working on things you could offer to the community, I think is a way to keep ourselves hopeful and have something to work towards that feels like productive and positive. Like, what could I offer to the community to help people? And then some books, finally.
Let's talk about books. Reading.
We've already talked about one. Yes. We talked about Octavia E. Butler. Reading is a really great way to develop your perspective taking, obviously develop your understanding of the world, but even like fiction books are really important for building empathy. I think just reading as much as you can. I have some recommendations. Yeah, Octavia E. Butler, anything by Bell Hooks, like The Will to Change, All About Love, Killing Rage. Bell Hooks has a lot of great books, specifically racism and white supremacy. There's a book called Becoming Abolitionists, Police, Protests, and the Pursuit of Freedom by Derecka Purnel. I have another one, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. I think I said that right. I looked it up earlier. She has a bunch of different books, which are all amazing. She also has a book called Be a Revolution and one called Mediocre, The Dangerous Legacy of White Male America. That's a good one.
That's a great title.
When it comes to mutual aid and building community, which I think is a really great positive focus if you're feeling like really overwhelmed and scared right now, instead of focusing on like, let's read about white supremacy and like the dangers of fascism.
This is where I'm at.
Yes. If you need something to give you hope and make you feel like there is change that you can make, because there is. We are not hopeless. We are all individuals. There are things that we can do to take these tiny little steps for ourselves and for our communities. So focusing on mutual aid and building community is a wonderful way to keep that hope alive and to like feel like you're doing something to help people. Not just feel like it, actually doing something to help people, you know? It's not just about reading theory, it's about actually doing things. So there's a book called Mutual Aid, Building Solidarity During This Crisis and the Next by Dean Spade. There's one called Except for Palestine, The Limits of Progressive Politics by Mark Lamont Hill and Mitchell Plitnick. And that's a really good one if you are liberal, but you're kind of struggling to understand the downfalls of liberalism and how like that's not really enough in the face of fascism to just be like a liberal. We need to work on like kind of becoming more radical than that. So I think that's a good one about progressive politics. There's one called Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Miriam Kaba. That's the one I'm reading right now, and I'm really enjoying it. So I highly recommend that one. It's only like 8 hours on Audible.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that one has a lot of stories about kind of different ways that people have come to this mutual aid work and like realized effective ways to communicate these thoughts with people with different groups. And like, you know, that's something that I need to work on a lot because I get very angry and emotional, and that's not an effective way to change people's minds, as good as it feels to us. You know, it's like not the most effective way to make change. There's also a book that I think you would like, Kristen, called The People's Hospital, Hope and Peril in American Medicine by Ricardo Nuila. And that is kind of about the medical system, how we can kind of support ourselves in community. And there's another one called We Do This Till We Free Us, but also by Miriam Kaba. And then when it comes to decentering men, lots of books on this topic. I follow this woman, Jamila Bradley, on TikTok. Go check her out. That's her handle, is just Jamila Bradley. And she talks a lot about like desirability and beauty politics. She has a good quote. She says, part of decentering men is decentering our innate desire to receive validation through appearance and through desirability. So really just decentering ourselves and this need to like have approval from men is really important for us to kind of like come into our own and realize our own power and strength. So some book recommendations: Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. That one is on my list. I've seen so many women recommending that. So that one's like going to be up next for me. There's one called Hags, The Demonization of Middle-Aged Women by Victoria Smith. That one's also on my list. I'm really excited about that one.
That's a great title.
Right? And that plays into that like whole desirability politics thing where we make it seem like any older woman who has this wisdom to share about men or about whatever, by design, the patriarchy has made those people like non-existent essentially. So anytime an older woman says like, hey, be cautious of this type of man, the patriarchy said, well, you're just jealous and that's why you're saying this, you know, when really like older women are trying to protect younger women and they see what's happening. But younger women have been so conditioned by the patriarchy to believe that they'll always be desirable. They'll always be the, you know, the ones that are being supported up and lifted up by men. It's really just because they're young and not because they're being seen as people. So that's a really good one. The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. Abolish the Family, A Manifesto for Care and Liberation by Sophie Lewis. Touch Out by Amanda Monti. And that's the thing that Jamila Bradley talks about a lot. A lot of these books are about like motherhood and the nuclear family and how much of a trap that is for women, like the trap of motherhood. Not that, I'm not saying it's bad to be a mother, but like within our culture, women are controlled by this, like this need to be
studies have shown, you know, motherhood, for men, getting married and having kids, they're most likely to get promoted. They do better. Like, it's great for men.
Yeah.
It does the complete opposite for women. And there's been several studies about it.
Yep. So yeah, I think it's just important to like look at our participation in that system and like all the things that are being asked of women to sacrifice that men are not sacrificing. And then if you're like just dipping your toe into deconstructing misogyny and starting to look at patriarchy, Jamila recommends these books, Women in Power, A Manifesto by Mary Beard. There's another one called Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates. And those are just important to kind of start looking around and noticing systems of oppression around you, you know? Nothing too crazy, but just kind of starting to become aware of these power dynamics and where we fall within them. Yeah. And then really just my other recommendation is follow Black women on any social media platform you can, you know, engage with their content, share, like, comment, repost. Don't go around asking Black people to like do the emotional and educational labor for you. There's so much stuff out there already. There's plenty of resources. If you want to find more books to read, if you want to find Black-owned businesses that you want to purchase from, go seek those resources out. You can learn from Black people, but please don't go to them and ask them to do free labor for you. If you are asking someone to perform labor for you, be ready to pay them for it. And if you're not willing to pay them, don't ask them to do that work, you know? I just think that's really important. And then some people that I follow on TikTok that might be good for you guys to check out too. Like I said, Jamila Bradley. I follow someone else, Amanda Reeds. Her handle is Amanda Please One. I'm going to put these all in the resources.
Okay, great.
Jean Lee talks a lot about gender politics and white feminism. I follow, like I said, Alexis and Dean. He is a great account to follow to learn about economics. And then I follow a few different Black creators who I think are just wonderful. May, whose handle is Open Michero. She talks about white supremacy. And a few others I'm going to just put in the resources because
these are all on TikTok.
Yep.
So
all those are on TikTok.
Follow them while we still have TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before TikTok goes away, give them a follow, you know?
Yeah.
Read books, do whatever you can. Like you can do little bits of learning throughout the day by just like following a bunch of Black and femme creators who have lived experiences that are like very valuable to us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
Nice
thank
and
you.
Simple.
So this this is a heavy bagel bite.
Yeah. I don't even know if this is a bagel bite.
It's
not.
Just an episode.
It's
I don't know if I don't know. This isn't really a just segs. It's not really. It's a
whatever we want it to be, you know?
It's the
our podcast,
the full-blown bagel pizza is what it is. Yeah.
That'd be good.
I love bagel pizzas.
Bagel bite the size of a pizza.
Yeah.
Interesting concept.
But yeah, I think that's been our episode. This is unusual but necessary, I think.
Yeah, and it's probably what you expected from us, you know?
Yeah. We might have lost some listeners, but
I don't
see ya.
Give a shit. Yeah, bye. I don't care. And if you're still here, wonderful. And like if you have other ways to maybe build up some more hope for people who are feeling hopeless, or you have good resources or good action steps that people can take towards building up community or helping themselves or helping marginalized people, let us know. And we would be glad to share those things, you know?
Grace and I were also thinking about maybe doing a live soon. And maybe we could change that instead of, talking about something stupid, of just like holding space and chatting about what people want to chat about.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, yeah.
So
this has
with
been
that,
a weird episode. But weird but necessary and a little depressing. But we'll be back next week with a different episode on a happier note and maybe some distracting. I've definitely been dopamine seeking and looking for distractions.
Yeah,
and
I think we can have a balance of distracting ourselves, but not leaning so far into that distraction and comfort that we are not also taking action. So I think a good balance is important. This was a bit of a harder episode. Next week we'll have a bit of a lighter one. Have a little fun. Have a little balance. You know, yin and yang.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
That's how I feel.
Eagle of freedom right there. No, put your chest into it. There it is. Squawk it out. Help us! Please!
Yikes.
Oh no! All right, see ya.